On behalf of Vanderbilt University, our Chancellor Daniel Diermeyer, and our Athletics Director Candace Lee, I welcome you to our city and to my hometown. Nashville has always been a vibrant part of the Vanderbilt experience. It's one of the great sports cities in America and a loyal partner to our program. We're excited to share our home with the college football world this week and hope everyone enjoys their time here. A year ago, we were hard at work on the foundational identity of our program while also searching for on-field progress. This led to inconsistent play and plenty of challenging moments. The adversity we faced strengthened our resolve and helped to refine our process, giving way to an evolved team that was able to find flashes of success. Though we can celebrate progress, we will never be satisfied with 5-7. Vanderbilt football pursues success at the highest level, and we will not back down from our mission to build the best college football program in the nation. Just down the road for the past 7 months, Team 3 has been training with intention in an effort to form the most capable team to this point in my tenure. As we stand now in front of a clean sheet, our goal is postseason play. The margins remain razor thin for our program, and the difference between achieving our goal and being left in the wake of disappointment likely comes down to a handful of snaps this season. We understand that progress is seldom linear and certainly never a guarantee, and it's our shared responsibility now to capture these margins in our design and preparation. To accomplish this, each program member must be willing to go beyond our limits, ever evolving the internal expectations for what it means to invest in our process and strengthen our culture. We simply cannot miss any opportunity to take ground on our mission. 2.5 years ago, when I came home to Nashville, I wanted to prove to the world what I knew to be true about the potential of Vanderbilt football. As we've struggled through the challenges inherent in changing a culture and resuscitating a program, I realize I'm now motivated less by what I prove to those on the outside and more by what I share with those on the inside. The chip on my shoulder is still there, and it's still important. But what's more important to me is the honor of collaborating with the first-class people that make up Vanderbilt football. I love going to work every day with our players and staff, with our fans, and our loyal alums to build a program we can all be proud of. I'm grateful to work arm in arm with our leadership, specifically Daniel Diermeyer and Candace Lee, the best partners I could ever ask for. They're tough, competitive, compassionate leaders with great vision and a willingness always to show up and do the work. The love I have for the work we're doing reminds me of just how unique our journey at Vanderbilt is. As I look out my window daily, I now witness the physical transformation of our spaces, a reality that very few believed would ever be possible. Our buildings are changing, but our foundation never will. What makes Vanderbilt football special is our people, fully devoted to each other and aligned on our team mission. We forge the bonds of human connection the only way we know how and the only way that lasts, finding our joy and purpose in shared suffering and sacrifice. This, coupled with our developmental approach, ensures that we maximize the experience of each individual in our program. We're playing the long game at Vanderbilt, and rather than have our program blowing in the wind, moved by the latest trends in the broader landscape of college football, we've chosen to set our foundation deep in solid ground, and we're committed to seeing our mission through. Our belief is simple: devoted people, developmental approach, dominant program. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. If you have a question for Coach Lee, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Morgan, Thomas, and Lauren will get a microphone. We'll start over here, Coach, in front of my section here on the aisle, about midway back. Drew.
Coach Lea, Drew DeArmond, WZZN Radio, Huntsville, Alabama. I wanted to ask you about a way you built your roster, and he's one of the first hires you made. It was kind of an outside-the-box thing, and he'd been so involved in recruiting. But talk about Barton Simmons and the role he plays and how he's helped you build your roster so far at Vanderbilt University.
Yeah, Barton has been such a great partner, and the truth is that hire was made like back in the 7th grade, I think, you know. He's been a best friend of mine for a really long time. And one of the cool things to me is, obviously I've got a ton of respect for Barton as a professional, but respect him so much as a competitor too. You know, we built our bonds on the fields of high school football and, you know, competing together. But as we got into our respective professions, we stayed obviously in close touch and always had, I think, you know, not always supported by our wives, but we'd have these long conversations about what development looked like, what players looked like in high school that became pros, and where some of the flaws are in the system for evaluation. What is valued maybe externally that we know sometimes can be misplaced internally. And over the years, we kept having these conversations, and so I really wanted someone to reimagine what recruiting could be. You know, we needed to be very specific and precise. We needed to be surgical with how we were building our roster here, and we can't afford to miss, you know. But we also understand that because we are developmentally based, that those players that we bring in that get our full investment every day, their performance will amplify. You know, I got a couple of guys with me today that are examples of that. Will Shepard and Ethan Barr. Now, we didn't recruit them, but they had very similar journeys out where Vanderbilt was their only Power 5 offer. Jalen Mahoney's, who's here, had some other options, but these are really good players and all SEC level players that were grown and developed in those systems. So again, his willingness to take that approach, and not even willingness, but I mean the alignment we have on the vision of what a developmental program can and should be, it's been a lot of fun, and we continue to have fun, and he continues to be such a valued part of our process. And you know, the good news for me is he's a Nashvilleian like I am, and I know Haley, his wife, is not going anywhere, so this partnership will go for a really long time.
Coach, we'll go right down the center aisle, about 3/4 of the way back.
Hey, Coach. Christian Skelton, Fox Sports Knoxville. First off, congrats on the extension. And on defense, the corners seem to be the biggest question mark for you guys heading into this season. How do you plan to balance playing the veterans and the young guys that you still got that are developing?
Yeah, we have to find the best 11 on both sides. You know, we do return some snaps at corner, but that doesn't mean that we feel like that gives us the best chance to win just because they played a bunch. You know, this is about finding the people that are capable in the moment. Obviously, in a game now that is won and lost on the perimeter, so we have to give our young players a chance to develop in fall camp. Obviously, we have some second-year players that are further along in their progress that we expect to have a role on our team. We also have a true freshman that comes in with the chance to make an impact too. And one of the great, you know, the way we start our season almost assuredly won't be the way we finish our season. And so part of the formula here is always having the patience to see that level of performance, you know, come to the surface. If you remember a year ago, you know, CJ Taylor started as kind of a fringe contributor on our defense and became really our most dynamic playmaker on that side of the ball. That'll happen at some level this year too. And so what our goal here is in fall camp is to get all those guys exposure, and they're going to be guarding some SEC level receivers now. We have a good receiving core, and it's not always going to look pretty, but for us it's to be patient enough to see that through, to keep coaching and developing them through both their wins and their losses and their reps. and to see how that group matures through camp and where we're ready to start the season. And at the point at which we put the ball down against Hawaii, we don't stop evaluating at that point. We'll still look for the highest level of performance, and that gives those young players time to build into an impact role.
Okay, we'll go right in front to your right, third row.
Hey, Coach, Ottawa Richardson from OrangeBloods.com. Big picture question, Coach. Next season, Texas joins the SEC, and obviously they'll be traveling to your house. Your impressions on just Texas, anything you can say about them, and then what kind of team can Texas expect to face once they see you guys in 2024?
Well, I'm obviously, you're talking to a football coach ahead of fall camp, so my scope is pretty narrow right now. I'm excited about the way the league's expanding. I think obviously, to add Texas and Oklahoma is a statement. And as a competitor, no matter where you are, if you're a real competitor, you're looking to measure yourself against the very best. That's what our league allows us to do, right? So no matter who we play against this year or next year, the goal is that they play against a team that knows perfectly who they are, plays to an identity, and has weaponized that identity to puncture the shell of the opponent. I want everyone we play against to leave the field having learned something about themselves, because that Vanderbilt group is really tough and relentless and never stops, and also has the weapons to be dangerous. And so, we're a work in progress that way. A year ago, we were inconsistent with how we showed up. This year we'll be a little further along. By the time Texas comes to town, hopefully we'll be ready to play Vanderbilt football from the first snap to the last.
Coach, we'll go in the section in front of me, third row on the aisle.
David Cloninger, Charleston Post and Courier. Clark, you mentioned the facility improvements that are going on campus right now, specifically for your program. Have you already seen them pay a benefit in recruiting? Anything else about what you can promise for the future?
Yes. Obviously, when I accepted the job, all these plans were in place. And so you can, from that moment, start talking about what this future is going to look like. I think the biggest statement that it makes is just support from the highest office on campus. I mean, Chancellor Diermeyer has been such an advocate for our program. He's a football fan. I don't know how many people know that about him, but he sat for an hour and a half in my office with me and Barton, just spitballing what college football recruiting is about. He's very interested, and I think when recruits and prospects see that level of interest at the highest office, it's something that is different for Vanderbilt, right? This is a moment for us, not because of me, right? I'm a part of it, but what's a bigger part of it is the leadership of the university wants for this program to be successful. And so what we're seeing now is that vision manifest in physical transformation. And look, right now it's not pretty. I mean, there's a lot of shut down roads and a lot of dirt and a lot of construction equipment, but it gives us the chance, it gives us the landscape to paint the picture of what the future will be. And in short order, we'll be talking about Vanderbilt football with cutting edge facilities and best in class resources. And when has that ever been said? So again, these are all exciting things. For us, you got a top 15 school, okay? We play in the SEC. We're in Nashville, Tennessee. Vanderbilt's one of one. You make no compromises. We're going to support you with the best facilities and the best resources. You're going to have coaches that are going to invest in you every day. We're not out there to swap pieces in and out every year. We're going to build and develop from the bottom up. And to me, that becomes a pretty enticing proposition.
Coach, we'll go back here in the middle section along the aisle.
Hey, Clark, Colin Wilson with the Action Network. The defenses you called at Notre Dame and in your first season at Vanderbilt had about an 18 to 20% blitz rate. Last year, a huge jump up to 28% blitz rate. Is Vanderbilt going to be more aggressive with blitz this year or come back to the fold of the earlier defenses?
Well, let me first say that Nick Howell's our defensive coordinator, and he'll be calling the defenses. It's anytime you design, I think first of all, Coach Howell's personality, if anyone's met Coach Howell, he's an aggressive dude, and he's going to be an aggressive play caller, and I love that about him. I think our balance is making sure that we time those pressures up to put our players in the best position to be successful. What we want to do is shorten it down with a 4-man rush. We want to create pressure on the quarterback and disrupt the ball with our front 4. The more we can do that, the more we can add coverage. And like I said earlier, that the game is won and lost on the perimeter. The more we can add help over there with another person in coverage, that is a benefit. But to do that, you have to have an effective 4-man rush. And so we've seen great progress in our defensive front. I thought we made progress last season. I thought it was the most improved unit in the winter and spring for us. That continued progress allows us to be a little more coverage-based, but in the end, it's about shortening the down. So you do what you have to do, and that means if you need to send a 5th or a 6th, you send a 5th or a 6th. And if it's Coach Howell, he may send a 7th or an 8th. That wasn't necessarily my formula, but hey, to each his own. But all of it has to be designed to make the offense play left-handed. And what we can't do is become aggressive for the sake of being aggressive. We have to make sure that we have a clear process and design. And if the play call is right, it means our process was right. If the play call was wrong, then we got to re-examine how we got to that call. But never is it about emotion and just trying to send as many people as we can.
Coach will go straight in front of me in the first row. Teresa.
Teresa Walker, the Associated Press. A couple of things, Clark. On the construction front, how much patience is there going to have to be this year for you fans and to work around what is a big construction zone right now?
Well, there's going to be some hurdles there. I think I've asked them to clear the path to the press elevator, though, Teresa, and I think we've done some other things up there, and we'll make sure it's as comfortable as possible for everyone. Honestly, it's the pains of progress, and what we can't do is say, hey, it's been 30 years, like we can't look at it and say this is unfortunate. This is a celebration. So if we have to walk a little further to get in, if the team has to take a little different path, we don't have a tunnel right now. We'll figure out a different way to take the field. All of that stuff to me is a celebration, and to me too, as a fan, this is a great moment, and there will never be another year for Vanderbilt where we'll have this level of construction going on our football stadium. Let's embrace it for what it is, and it's a launching point for us into our future, and let's have fun with it. And a year from now, 2 years from now, that we'll have a really tough place to come and play for an opponent. And this year will present some different challenges for different reasons, but listen, when the jackhammer was going on outside my office, it wasn't always convenient, but by God, it was progress, so we're going to celebrate that.
And on a completely different topic, in the wake of the Northwestern situation, you're a former player. Do you readdress with your team the topic of hazing or what might be seen as team bonding to make sure that it doesn't cross over into that area that it could be seen as hazing?
Yeah, the situation is really sad, and it's unfortunate on so many levels. And short of commenting on Northwestern's program, because I'm not a part of Northwestern's program, I believe that the day that this, in every area, the day that this becomes anything other than a value add for the student athlete, and sometimes value add is about inconvenience, and it's about sacrifice, and I've talked about shared suffering. Those things to me are important points of growth. But on the whole, when the experience doesn't become a value add, then we've lost our way as coaches. It's our responsibility to steward an experience that gives people a launching point into their future, and that's important. As far as internally, we don't readdress things. Like, we live out our identity and our values every single day. That does not mean that we're perfect, right? And so what we want to do is create a culture where when things aren't quite right, and sometimes these behaviors start very small, And we need to have great boundaries, and we need to have a no as a program. And I think a lot of the issues, and again, this isn't speaking specifically about Northwestern, but a lot of the problems we're facing now in the broader culture of our sport have to do with a lack of boundaries and a lack of no. And I don't think anything functions. You can't create the synergy needed without great boundaries. So for us, to create a culture where we have those boundaries, where people can speak up and say, hey, this isn't quite what I like, or this isn't what I wanted, and give us a chance to make adjustments and shifts before you get anything that's big that blows up on you. I mean, that's kind of the goal. The other thing too is, we have covenants in our program. There are 5 of them. The first one is true brotherhood. So there's no brotherhood that I know that starts with a level of abuse in the locker room. And we've got great leadership within our players, and those guys do a great job. It's a partnership, and this is co-creation and collaboration. And so it's not just about my message. It's about how the staff executes my message. It's about how the team takes my message and actualizes it in their habits and behaviors every day. And we're very intentional about that. Now, what we will do is we'll continue to go deeper into this broader narrative around creating a culture where people are comfortable speaking up when things feel off. And again, to me, a lot of time those big things actually show up in small things early. We need to have a program and environment where we address those when they're small, so they never get to the point where they're big.
We have time for a couple more questions. We'll go over to the right.
Good morning, Jacob Goins with ESPN 106.7 in Auburn. Last year on the defensive side of the ball, you had Elijah McAllister, a team captain for you, appeared in all 12 games. He has since transferred to Auburn. He'll be here today with you Freeze at SEC Media Days. What is Auburn getting in Elijah McAllister on and off the field?
Elijah's a first-class person. He's got length, plays hard. Guy I think the world of. He's a Vanderbilt graduate. I stay in touch with him, support him. Glad that he's here because the college football world needs him to have a platform. And I'm proud of him and appreciate him for what he contributed to our program.
All right, Coach, we'll take one final question in the middle aisle.
How's it going, Coach? Chris Phillips, the Spurs Up Show. You lose Ray Davis to the transfer portal. How much more pressure does that put on your quarterback, A.J. Swann, to carry the offensive attack, and how do you replace the production that Davis gave you last season?
Well, again, we appreciate everything Ray contributed to our program. He ran behind 5 offensive linemen that are back and that do a great job. In fact, there were more than 5 that started games for us last year. We believe in our offensive front. We returned Chase Gillespie and Patrick Smith, and both are capable runners. We've added talented freshmen to that mix too. And AJ doesn't need to shoulder any more of the burden. We need AJ to focus on his development and his ability to facilitate the offense, make pre-snap and post-snap decisions, get the ball into space. And I think his growth from year 1 to year 2 has less to do with putting the offense on his back and more to do with consistency and execution. At that point too, we're leaning on a talented receiver core to be able to create explosive plays for us. But we're not going to change who we are. We feel like we'll be able to not skip a beat in that run game and keep pushing forward as an offense. And we're excited for those guys to come together over the next month in fall camp.
All right. Coach Lee, thank you for your time.
All right. Thanks so much.